Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In this fourth lesson, we will, inshallah, talk about um, one of the things we have talked about before. Um, we talked about the hadith of the angel Gabriel, and we said that we have the five pillars of Islam, and we mentioned them. And then we said that we have the six pillars of Iman, means faith, and we mentioned them. And then we have Ihsan, which means excellence or benevolence or Sufism. And today I want to talk about the first pillar of the pillars of Iman. The first pillar, which is the pillar of belief, which is to believe in Allah, to believe in God. And in order to believe in God, we need to know what are the attributes of God. And because this is the first section, we still are not diving deep into the belief and into the dimension of the intellectual dimension and into the belief dimension. I'm gonna try to do something which I think it's very, very good. It's to explain the Al-Ikhlas chapter, the Serenity chapter means Al-Ikhlas. Um, Mukhlis means sincere. The sincerity chapter means it's the name of the surah, and I think this surah, this chapter in the Quran, has all the basics that the Muslim should know in the beginning before start, learning more and diving more into the religion. After learning Al-Ikhlas, we will then continue on. But I will explain it, and I also want people who doesn't memorize it to memorize it because it's very short surah, very short chapter, but it has kind of most of the things that the believer needs to know about their Lord. Um, let's see here. And I have translated the 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 chapter before because in the way of Allah we have mentionings, means to mention Allah, and it's one of them. And I started with a friend of mine to translate it, and I'm gonna use this version. So Surah Al-Ikhlas, the Serenity chapter, um, starts with by the name of Allah, the All Merciful, the Giver of Mercy, as always when we read the Quran. And before we read the Quran, we say also, um, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek refuge in Allah from the devil. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim means by the name of Allah, the All Merciful, the Giver of Mercy. Then we start the chapter. So the first verse says, say, Allah is unique. قل هو الله أحد. The word ahad may be confused in Arabic with wahid. So wahid means one. Ahad means unique. So what is the difference between one and unique? The meaning of one is that you have one, and then you might have two and three and four. And you could also say that one and only means that it's the only one. For example, you would say, I have the certain car and it's the only one, means this is the only model that was created. It's very rare, very unique. Um, but there is this other word, not wahid, but instead ahad. And ahad means unique. It means there is nothing like him. There is nothing exist as He does. So here it says, and Quran is the word of Allah. So Allah is saying, say Allah is unique. Uniqueness, when we talk about Allah, it means many things. It means that Allah is the only God, because when you say this paper is unique, means this paper is has attributes that no other paper has. For example, if we talk about a person, we say that person is special. That person has nobody like him. Means he's very unique. He has attributes that no other person on earth has those attributes or those qualities. Now we're talking about God. We're talking about the creator. And the creator is not like the creature. When we say creature, when we say the living being, means the thing that was created. It did not exist, and then it came to existence. So there is a starting point. When we talk about Allah, Allah is unique. It's not like the creature. Allah is not like the creatures. So Allah doesn't have a starting point. We all go into thinking um, with everything regarding time. We say, when did you wrote this? When did you created this? When did you went to the meeting? When did you came home? There has to be a starting point. When have you been born? Um, Anything we think of, when did the universe started? Anything created, any creature has a starting point. Well, Allah is not like that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is unique. Allah means God, means the creator, the maker of everything, the effector of everything, has no starting point. Um, and saying unique means that also there is no other God. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Ahad is unique, and it also means that there is nothing like him. Not that he is different than all the creatures, but he has no partner being God with him. So he's the only God. And this is what monotheism means. When we believe in Allah, when we believe in God, the Creator, we have to believe in God that He is the only God. La ilaha illallah. There is no God or there is no deity but Allah or except Allah. And this is very important because this is the belief. And then later, in a later chapter, we will talk about um, how do we give the proof that Allah is the only God. Now we believe in it, but did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us any clues about His oneness, His uniqueness, about His attributes? How could we know in the mind that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists? How can we prove it? To ourselves, maybe, to atheists, to Christians, to Jews, to non-believers, to the worshippers of devil, if they want to use their mind and if they um, want to have a common ground, what is the common ground here? The common ground here is that we have a common thing, which is the mind. And that's in the chapter of the intellectual dimension. But right now, the only thing we're going to do is I'm going to give you the beliefs. What should we believe to be Muslims? So here it says, say Allah is unique. So it's an order. Say Allah is unique. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Say it. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be shy of it. Because some people now, there is kind of like a movement where if you say monotheism, or no, it's even if you say God. I had an incident once where there was a lady, which is kind of the instructor. of a class, and she started talking and talking, and then she said, um, "Oh God," or something like that, and she said, "I'm very sorry. I shouldn't say God because some people get offended." You get offended by saying God? Really? So here it says, say Allah is unique. Don't be shy of it. This is your belief. This is what you accepted, what you wanted. This is your path. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid of your path, of what you chose and what you know it's right. Say Allah is unique. And then it says in the second verse, so the first verse says, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Say Allah is unique. The second verse says, Allahu Samad. Allah is the um, sovereignty. Sovereignty, if we translate it, it means that sovereignty, Samad. So in Arabic, the word Samad means something that is not empty, something that you can rely on. Um, in English, its sovereignty is supreme power, supreme authority. It's the same meaning in Arabic. It means summit. When you have, for example, when you have a thin bar of metal, it can be very quickly bent. You cannot rely on it. But if you have a very thick and solid bar of metal, then it's what it's called summit, means it's all, thick and all fill and you can rely on it. So Allahu Samad, so before it says Allah is unique, Allah is one, Allah is not like the creatures, Allah is nothing alike. And here it started adding more meanings to it. Allahu Samad means the one you can rely on, the one who has the authority, the one who is powerful. And this adds another meaning. When you say, I can rely on Allah, when you say ever, I can rely on anything, it means that thing is reliable. It is solid, it is authentic, it is powerful, you can trust it. And this is a very, very big thing because if Allah is powerful and Allah is almighty and has all the authority, but there is no element of trust, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would surprise you with things that are horrible, you can't trust Allah. But Allah said, Allahu Samad, tasmudu ilayh. You can trust Him, you can rely on Him. Relying on Allah, it doesn't mean only that Allah is powerful and capable. It means also Allah will secure you. And that's one of the names that were mentioned in the Quran. Allahul Mu'min. Mu'min in Arabic is translated to be believer, but also the word mu'min means the one who secure you, the one who you feel secured with, the one who you are not afraid when you're with him. Securing, al-aman, al-mu'min, security, safety. So saying that Allah is the sovereignty means Allah is the one that you can rely on. And relying on Allah means that you trust Him, you feel comfortable with Him. You're not afraid of Him as you're terrified of Him. You're not secure with Him. No, you're secure with Him. You can trust Him. He has the absolute knowledge. Because how would you trust a person even if that person is ignorant and their information and their knowledge is not reliable. You can't trust a person on your life if that person is incapable. So it has to be knowledgeable, has to be able, has to be having a will and is ready to act on his will. For example, if he wants to protect you, he can protect you and he will protect you. And that's what relying on Allah means. So Surah Al-Ikhlas, the sincerity chapter, is telling us about Allah. It's very brief. but it's very deep. You can still reflect on it and keep reflect on it, and it has many, many meanings. So, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Say Allah is unique. Allah is Samad. Allah is the sovereignty. لم يلد ولم يولد. He has never had offspring, nor he was born. Because one of the attributes of God is to be eternal, not new. We talked about this. We as creatures have a starting point, means we are new. Now God is the opposite. God is doesn't have a starting point. God subhanahu wa ta'ala, we call it old. And old has two meanings. A meaning that is mostly used, it means something has spent more time than another thing. An old employee means has spent more time in the company. An old person has spent more time than another person in life. But that's one meaning. But the original meaning of old, al-qadim, it means that this person is not new. It's the opposite of the word new. And the word new means that this person has a starting point. So the original meaning of the word old means the person is not new, means has no starting point, which is means eternity. So when it says that God has never had offspring, means a child, nor he was born. It's talking about this attribute of Allah the old, Allah the eternal, that doesn't have a starting point, doesn't have a beginning, and doesn't have an end because he's not new. Nothing new will happen to him. And if we say that God has a son or a child, well, that child is impossible because it should be the child of God, the eternal, so it should be eternal. But at the same time, it's got born, which means not eternal, means new. So it's a contradiction. The mind does not even accept it. Nor he was born, or nor was he born, because otherwise, if he was born, he would not be eternal. And not being eternal means something created it, and that thing is the God. So we're talking about the actual God, and the actual God cannot be new. It has to be eternal. So it's kind of the Surah Al-Ikhlas, the chapter of sincerity, encapsulates all the things that talks about al-aqidah, talks about the creed of the Muslim, the mentality of the monotheist. So it said, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Say Allah is unique. Allahu Samad, Allah is the sovereignty. Lam yalid, he has never had offspring, or means a child. Walam yulad, nor he was born. Walam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad, and there is no equal to him. Walam yakun lahu, no one to him was. Kufuwan ahad, no one was to him as an equal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we said in the beginning, the unique. So why it was repeated again here? It's for one, for confirmation, to kind of summarize. It's saying there is no equal to him. And as we say as the scholars teaches us, كل ما خطر ببالك فالله بخلاف ذلك. Whatever comes to your mind, then Allah is the opposite of that. Or we can say it more correctly, whatever comes to your mind, then Allah is not like that. Because what comes to your mind is imagination, things you imagine and things you know. And imagine this, imagination and knowledge are creatures. Whatever you imagine, whatever you know, is all creatures. Whatever comes to your mind, you have known nothing but the creatures in your mind. So if an image comes to your mind saying that Allah is Allah an old man, that came to your mind, then Allah is not like that. And I'm talking here mainly about how Allah is. Means, is Allah a ghost? If that came to your imagination, then Allah is not like that. Is Allah, for example, a mystical spirit? Allah is not like that. Whatever comes to your mind, whatever you imagine to describe the how Allah is, then that's not Allah, because Allah is outside the universe. And outside the universe doesn't mean that there is inside, Allah is outside. Allah is outside of whatever you know in the universe. So here it's very powerful. It says, and there is no equal to him. Whatever comes to your mind, Allah is not equal to that. If Allah comes to your mind as He is, for example, powerful, then Allahu Akbar. Allah is greater than this. So then why Allah described Himself with names and attributes, Al-Asma'ul Husna, the beautiful names of Allah? This is so that we know Him from our perspective. But Allah is even greater. Allah has no equal. You cannot imagine Allah and you're true in your imagination. Allah is always more beautiful, more great, and more perfect than what we imagine. So it says again, let's read it again one more time. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Say, Allah is unique. Allahu Samad. Allah is the sovereignty. لم يلد ولم يولد. He had or he has never had offspring, nor was he born. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. And there is no equal to him. In the Quran, and memorize this. This is a rule when dealing with Allah. Allah in the Quran says, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. And Allah is nothing alike. If you memorize this rule, Allah is nothing alike, then you're safe. You're a monotheist. Because after explaining the Surah Al-Ikhlas, this chapter of serenity, you now know more about Allah and you have a holistic overview about what the believer should know about their Lord. And I wish that next lesson we all memorize it. It's very short, very, very short chapter. And then later, inshallah, we will also explain the Al-Fatiha, the opener chapter, but that's after we take the prayer, which is going to be in this section. So that when we reach to the point where we will pray, in the prayer we can read those. And that's going to happen, inshallah. Is there any questions? Do you have any questions? Okay. So see you, inshallah, next week, next lesson. Do you have any question?
So I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
My daughter Sarah, she's asking why we are using he for Allah.
Great question.
Thank you.
So, why I'm using he, not, for example, she or it? So, language-wise, um, if we use something, for example, if I use she for Allah, that means I'm specifying a gender. If I am using it for Allah, that's inappropriate because it's used for animals and things. So using the he, it means I am keeping it general. I think even if we go to Shakespeare, that he says that the using the he is for the general usage. Means I can say he for him, for the male, and for the female. It's the same exact thing in Arabic. In Arabic, we say huwa. Who in Arabic means him, but it doesn't mean him as I want to make a gender. I wanted to make it as general as possible to point to Allah. So we use those things to point to Allah. We want to stay as far away from genderizing Allah because Allah is not a creature. Allah is not He. Allah is not she. Allah is not anything as we imagine or as we have so or know. Allah is not a female. Allah is not a male. There is no, the concept of gender exists in creatures. So we use huwa in Arabic or he or him in English to keep it the most generally possible. Because I think even if you go, as I said, to Shakespeare in English, using he means I am keeping it as general as possible. Then, if I want to make it more specific, talking about a female, then I'm going to be saying she. So using he or huwa is to keep it as general as possible. It has nothing to do with genderizing it at all. Is that clear?
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, any other questions? Okay, perfect. We'll meet inshallah next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And don't forget to memorize the Al-Ikhlas chapter. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam wa rahmatullah.
السلامة.
Ma assalam.